Today's devotional comes from Genesis chapter 1. We're going to look at the second part of Genesis 1, and this is picking up from a previous devotional I did where we looked at the first part of Genesis 1 of God's creation of everything leading up to humans. And how that story goes is that God creates all these things, the skies, the ocean, light, day and night, and the trees and plants, all these things which make up just the beauty of life, but also bringing about this order and rhythm of life into the earth, which had been in this state of chaos. So we see how God does something new, and how God is behind what is good, and not and God's not the one who is upholding that chaos, but God is working to bring about new creation. And so as we look at the second part of Genesis 1, where God creates us as humans, we're going to look at the purpose that God has given us, and just that vision for our place here on this planet, our place here as just people and our purposes in our communities, and how God does something new with us, in and through us, in creating something new, even in maybe those places which have seemed chaotic, where we can bring about something good. So let's see. If we look at verse 26, I'm going to look at 26 and then read on and take it from there. Then God said, "Let us make humans in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So right here, in the very first words where we see God creating humans in the story, we see, let us make humans in our image. So we see, let us make humans in our image, where we are invited into this community. God loves community, and we're designed to be in community with one another, with God, and with the creation. Now it says rule over the fish and the birds and these things, and we're going to look at that in a couple verses too. That might seem like that's not community, or that's not living together in harmony, but as we read those verses here in 26 and a little bit in 28, you can think of it as it's not talking about overfishing and hunting animals to extinction or something of that matter. Actually, later on, we see that it's the green things of the planet, the plants. It says, "Every green thing I give to you, every green plant for food." So we are seeing that there's this intentionality behind just this community of life. And when it's talking about ruling over things, one way of looking at that is having authority over those things which have been predatory, and kind of invading that way and rule of life. So it's kind of upholding the rule that God has given, rather than kind of enforcing or kind of overstepping the boundaries of that rule into domination of animals or anything else. So with that big caution in mind as we read this, because I realize some of these words can be confusing, let's keep on going. So God created humans in God's own image. In the image of God, God created them, male and female. God created them. So again, in this community, we see that God likes differences. God likes diversity. God creates them male and female, and in all the other ways that we have been made specially and uniquely, or just with all sorts of aspects that make up a more diverse community. And God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it." So these verses can be also kind of confusing because we might have heard different ways of reading this. But one way of looking at that, be fruitful and increase in number, it's really talking about the very purpose that Jesus gives us. As Jesus, in one of his final words, or some of his final words, here Jesus talks about going and making disciples, increasing numbers, and filling the earth. We're talking about filling it with God's goodness and God's purpose and God's way of life. And increasing numbers would be increasing followers of this God of life, increasing disciples. So we're given this purpose right there from the very start of all these things that bring about life and beauty, order, and this just way of life that is in harmony with one another. And so we are given this purpose to be creators with God in creating something new, bring about some beauty of life, where even where there's been situations of chaos, we have this vision of God working and us being a part of this community and in harmony with each other and with this beautiful creation that we have. And so I just encourage you to reflect on what that vision looks like in your life, in your day to day. It might be just finding time in your garden space, or it could be in showing some hospitality to a stranger, to a neighbor. However you find yourself being led by God, it's just my encouragement to you to remember that we are part of this beautiful creation. And even when things can seem chaotic out there, and there is so much chaos, we know that we are part of God's creation, and with this call and purpose to create something new and beautiful. And so I leave you with that. Bless you all. We'll see you soon.